Ilia Topuria is who we thought he is. An incredible win at UFC 317. Ilia Topuria knocked out Charles Oliveira in round 1, became a two-weight champion. What a knockout. What a performance. I am just over the moon. I've been following Topuria since he fought Youssef Zalal. I'm like, man, Zalal's a really good fighter. Who's this Topuria guy? And I watched that and I'm like, oh, this guy's good too. And now we have a two-weight world champion and probably the next UFC star. From the outset against Charles Oliveira, Ilia Topuria really did play his hand here. He said in the lead up, I'm not gonna have to close distance on Charles Oliveira because he's going to come to me. And he wasn't lying. He was not lying one bit, guys. No, Ilia Topuria showed his hand in the very first exchange. The very first exchange. What did he do? He jabs, boom. And he says, all right, Charles, your turn. Gotcha, over the top. He did that multiple times in this fight. Multiple times he did this. And that's exactly how he knocked him out. So he jabs. This is very, very Roberto Duran of him. Ilia Topuria jabs, then he waits, and he says, what's Charles gonna do? And Charles is like, hey, I gotta go. I gotta fight him. And he says, all right, now we're closed. You close the range for me. Thanks, buddy. Boom, boom, over the top. Over and over again. 3 or 4 times he tried that in this, 3.5 minute fight, something like that. Incredible. He literally showed Charles exactly what he was going to do. Literally from the very beginning. That's crazy to me. Oliveira's going to come with a kick-heavy game plan. We know this. And he did. He started to kick Ilia Topuria's legs. Topuria's got that real heavy boxing stance, real heavy on the lead foot. So how did Ilia Topuria deal with that? He's like, oh, I'm just going to jab you. And when you're getting punched while you're on one leg, that's always a scary sign. Because what if he comes behind with a 2? You counter the low kick with a cross, and you can knock him down, and score some points, or even actually hurt them. But no, Ilia Topuria was like, hey, I've got this. Check this out, and just jabbed him. He ate the low kick and he took the damage, but it really did start to change how Oliveira wanted to fight. And you can see it very early, man, I can't just throw these leg kicks, because he threw a couple of them early. Then he said, all right, let's dial this back a little bit, because he's already got a read on it. The very second one, I think, Oliveira opens up with a low kick. The second one, Ilia's like, all right, got it, boom, jab. Magnificent. Just magnificent. And then we said in the pre-fight, I said, is he on upset alert? Because I thought Charles Oliveira could have a path to victory. That was completely wrong. I mean, let's just be honest. It was just completely wrong. But we talked about the teep and the push kick and it being a big issue for Topuria because of how much bigger and longer Charles Oliveira is than him. And he dealt with that by blading his stance a little bit more. When Oliveira kicked, he would circle his back foot out and whoop, look at that kick going right by him. Jab him. I mean, it's the simplest approach. Now, granted, Charles Oliveira, he did get to a clinch. He was strong in the clinch. Now, Ilia Topuria, he managed to get into this clinch situation with Charles Oliveira, and it was kind of, okay, yeah, Ilia Topuria is very strong in the clinch, especially when it comes to Greco-Roman style, where it's kind of like that against the fence. He grabs the overhook and he's just stronger than you, and Oliveira looks to hip toss him, and Topuria ends up over the top, and man, he really did a good job of just slicing his guard wide open. I mean, he went through, he stepped over the hands and really just got into a good position. But Charles Oliveira did manage to get, the leg entanglement there. And I was kind of disappointed because I expected to see Ilia Topuria. If you think back to Tan Lee and Gary Tonin back in one championship. I don't know if you've watched that fight, but regardless, Gary Tonin's notorious leg locker. It's what he does. And he tries to leg lock Tan Lee, a Taekwondo guy, and Tan Lee just hammer fist him out. Didn't see that from Topuria. Would have liked to see him kind of smashing his head a little bit there, but he did a good job of getting his knee clear of the hips and making sure that Oliveira couldn't finish. And Oliveira really wasn't trying to do that. If he could lock up the submission, yeah, but he's really just trying to create a scramble, and he did, and he got out of the position. Now, eventually, Ilia Topuria did land again. Throws the jab, and he's like, all right, Charles. And what he does is really cool. So he jabs, and the punch is a little bit slower not slower, but you could tell he's kind of like, yeah, okay, here we go. And then once Charles commits to the jab, and he's like, okay, I need to step in now, because he's jabbing and his hand's not at home, Ilia Topuria, boom, boom, changes the speed real quick, and the right hook or the right cross lands, and then the left hook comes behind it, and Charles Oliveira's out, chopping wood, just out. Insane knockout. I was like, okay, this guy is who we thought he was. Now they brought Paddy Pimblett into the cage, and I can see Paddy giving him some kind of trouble, but Paddy leaves his chin too high. Charles Oliveira lifts his chin too high. Like, if Charles Oliveira leaves his chin high like this, Paddy's like this, really high. Topuria's going to put Paddy Pimblett away. And that's kind of what Ilia Topuria needs, is a bad guy, Think about Conor McGregor. He had the Jose Aldo. He found another bad guy in Nate Diaz by, Diaz beating him. And then he found another bad guy in Khabib Nurmagomedov, or Floyd Mayweather also. That's what made Conor McGregor so big. Alex Pereira had Israel Adesanya. And then he had, after that, he had everybody that beat Glover Teixeira. Yuri Prohaska, Jamal Hill, and I probably wanted John Jones, but yeah, good thing they didn't feed him Gustafson, because he would have murked Gustafson. Now, granted, everybody's talking about the Islam fight, and it's like, yeah, I don't think Islam's ducking. He's going up in weight, fighting a guy coming down in weight in Jack Della Maddalena. Islam's not ducking him. He's not, because Islam's probably the best fighter in the world. Let's be real. He's probably the best fighter in the world. And that's something you just can't, say, oh, yeah, he's ducking. No, he's not ducking Islam Makhachev. As a matter of fact, that's a really compelling and really close fight, and one that I think Islam could probably win, because we saw, Ilia kind of get bullied in the clinch, but how's he going to respond to the open side body kick from a southpaw? How's he going to respond to Islam clinching against the cage, who's about twice as strong as Charles Oliveira? What's he going to do in those spots? I don't think he was ducking. Yeah, he's going up, he's fighting a harder guy, That's not ducking. Now, another guy who doesn't duck anybody is literally Alexandre Pantoja. He's 12-0 against the top 10 of flyweight now. There is a conversation to be had about him being the GOAT over Demetrius Johnson. And that's crazy, because he never fought a Chris Serrano. He fought Davison Figueiredo coming up. He fought, Brandon Moreno. He fought all of these guys coming up. He has no desire to move up to 35 either, which is awesome. Defeated Kai France, round 3, rear naked choke. Absolute domination from Pantoja, from pillar to post. Just beat the snot out of Kai France. And I'll be honest, dude, I get why Kai France does it. I get its culture. That said, I can't stand it, and I wish he would stop it. And, Pantoja made sure he couldn't do it. It's crazy. It was absolutely crazy. At the very beginning of the fight, he walks down Kai France, literally walks him down, and is like, all right, let's go. You want to go? Let's go. And starts banging with him. And as soon as Kai France hits the fence, Pantoja's like, gotcha. Whoop. Slips under, gets the takedown. Kai France to take down the fence. Not very good. We knew that. Boy, though, but when he got on top, he was just dominating him just completely. And controlled the back. He really did backpack him real well. And it tired him out. He was beating him up so bad. We'll talk about with Jacoby Smith later. Kai France did some good things. He managed to, William from Open Note Grappling pointed this out, and I was like, hey, that's actually really cool. He scissors his legs and widens out the knees of Alexandre Pantoja. I'm talking about the figure 4 body lock. Pantoja locked that in real early. And he scissors the knees, widens the hips, or widens the knees of them. Scissors legs, widens the. I can't talk today. Anyways, gets between his legs and he managed to belly down and turn in the triangle, which is great. You love to see that. But Pantoja's no problem. I'll just scramble and find another dominating position that I can just beat you up in. And then Pantoja, as he always does, he got tired. He looked terrible. He's like, oh man, I am incredibly tired. And you're like, Kai France could fight his way back into this, but no, it was another case of Pantoja oh, okay, I'm tired, but here I am. I'm going to grapple again, and there's nothing you can do about it. And there really isn't anything anybody can do about it. He's just so good. Oh, and Pantoja's so good. Again, he might be the GOAT. He looked tired. He always does. But you go. I tell you what, boys. Let's go ahead and hop over to the web. I tell you what, boys. Before we go too far, let's go ahead over here and hop over to the web, because I want to take a look at Alexandre Pantoja's run, like, because it's incredible. What he's done, like, he captured the title here, and then he's defended 4 times. Like, Asakura is the weak point. Urseg might be another weak point, but like, he's fought everybody. And this Ultimate Fighter season is like the one that Demetrius Johnson was the champion, and they were like, we need to find new contenders. Like, he fought Marino and Kaikar France there. But you go up, you see Brandon Marino, Ulka Sasaki, and Wilson Hayes. Loses to Figueiredo, Matt Schnell, then he loses to Askarov. And you're like, all right, man, how far can this guy go? And then he beats Beniel Dariush, Brandon Royval, Alex Perez, Brandon Marino, Brandon Royval, Steve Ursig, Kai Asakura, and Kaikar France. What? Like, holy crap. What a run. And then, if you go over to the UFC rankings, or actually, let's go over the Tapology rankings real quick, because I like the view a little better here. You go look at the rankings at flyweight, and you're like, okay, he's beat Marino, he's beat Royval, who just lost. Joshua Van, we'll talk about him in a second. He's beaten Kopp already, beat Kaikar France. Tatsuro Taira needs to beat Amir Albazi. He'll be there. Albazi, no. Beat Astro Boy. Ulanbekov, maybe. Almabayev just lost. I thought he was going to be something. Beat Perez. Bruno Silva's not good. Kai Asakura, like, he's wasted the division, and there's nobody left. And at 35, like, you think about what he brings to the table, and you look at like what Demetrius Johnson did, and sure, Demetrius Johnson got the 11 title defenses, which is like 7 more than what Pantoja has, but like, he didn't fight Chris Curacao or Ray Borg, you know. Turns out Kai Asakura is going to be pretty good. Steve Ursig is on a bad spot. Fought tough killers, but yeah, I mean, he needs a fresh challenger. He needs a very fresh challenger. Who could that be? I don't know. Was there a fight on this card that maybe, you know, maybe could have been a challenger? Like Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval, having a fight of the year, one of the best fights I've ever seen of all time? Yeah, that's who he's going to fight. Defeated Brandon Royval. Joshua Van, that is, defeats Brandon Royval. Raw dog himself. 3 weeks notice, unanimous decision. Literally, Brandon Royval was 3 weeks ago fighting on UFC 316 against Bruno Silva. I had to think about it for a second. I just talked about Bruno Silva. 3 weeks ago, he was like, yeah, I'll fight Bruno Silva. Now, granted, Joshua Van's really small for this division, and he didn't have to do crazy weight cuts, but he relies on his speed and his hands to really go out and do what he needs to do. In that first round, he looked great. He was really countering that right hand over the top of Brandon Royval. And Royval, you know, I was like, man, Van might run away with this. And Royval managed to fight his way back into it like a true #1 contender does. And you're thinking to yourself, like, man, how good is Brandon Royval here, right? Like, what can he do? And Royval really does have a great second round. But the third round comes around, and I'm thinking to myself, like, man, Royval's tired. Or Joshua Van is tired, I'm sorry. Royval, known for his cardio, this is only 3 rounds. He might take this fight. And Joshua Van, before the knockdown in the last round, even then, before the knockdown, he was very competitive with Brandon Royval. And that round could have gone either way. I'd like to see what the judges were thinking before that round, right? But it could have gone either way. But what sealed the deal was really like the fact that Brandon Royval got knocked down. Like, Joshua Van finally connected with one. And Royval's a tough fighter. He's not going to be easy to put away. We know that. But when when Joshua Van knocked down Brandon Royval, it was like, all right, yeah, you won this fight. And, you know, Royval cussing and mad because he got knocked down, knowing that cost him the fight. Because it was a close round, and he could have stole it. But, boy, at only 23 years old, Joshua Van's so fun. And I've always, like, touched upon him. And last time he fought, I talked about him a little bit more. But, man, like, he's just fun. And every time there's like a bad card or something like that, you're like, oh yeah, Joshua Van's fighting, that'll be great. But like this time, it's like, oh, he's on the pay-per-view because, you know, he's stepping in short notice to fight the #1 contender because Beniel Dariush can never make a day. It's crazy. 23 years old, he's this good. My worry is like the mileage, obviously. I'll say, like, thinking about the hypothetical matchup with Alexandre Pantoja is kind of how this all ties in. You know, if Pantoja walks down Joshua Van like that, like Joshua Van doesn't go straight back like Kagasakura does. He doesn't like to hit the fence. I can say confidently, you know, he can stuff a good takedown. He wouldn't have that much success against Pantoja stuffing takedowns, and his whole game plan should be predicated upon not getting to the fence and not being in these positions. And he circles out. He exits at angles. You know, he V-step. Really an interesting fight, because if Alexandre Pantoja walks down like that against Joshua Van, he's going to get clipped. And we know he's, you know, very durable, very tough, but like you get clipped enough, and even he's 35, Pantoja is, that is, he's 35, you know, that's a tough ask, especially against a 23-year-old. Probably be 24 by the time they fight. Especially against a 23-year-old. Man, I just have a hard time, like, the real big X factor to me is going to be, how does Joshua Van do over 5 rounds? Again, he's in great shape, and you can tell he's in great shape. But he's never fought 5 rounds in the UFC. You know? He's never had that opportunity to go the distance like we want to see him do. And that kind of concerns me when it comes to him. So, you know, you got to be tough, and you got to be able to go the distance. But, you know, that we'll slide with that. They got the 2 in the cage, and it really seems exciting. Let's see what Pantoja can do against a guy like Joshua Van. Let's see what Joshua Van can do against the literal best of all time. I'm going to say it. He's the GOAT. Sorry, guys. Next on this card was Beniel Dariush coming back against Renato Moicano. I thought Moicano was going to win this fight, honestly, because Dariush, he's taken 2 years off. This fight was originally scheduled for the Islam fight, when Islam and Moicano fought, because Islam was supposed to fight Arman Saryukin, and Saryukin injured his neck, couldn't make weight, whatever. And Moicano stepped in on short notice. So that left Dariush getting paid and kind of, you know, sitting out for a little bit more time. And Dariush has had chin problems recently, you know. He took the unanimous decision, by the way. He defeated Moicano, but not after some adversity. At the end of that first round, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, Moicano's absolutely got this, because he just dropped Dariush. But, like, we forget Dariush was, like, on an 8-fight win streak, very tough. Interesting fighter for somebody like Islam Makhachev to face. But, you know, it was a big right hand. Dropped Beniel Dariush, and I'm like, man, it sucks, because I think Beniel Dariush is a great guy. But second round, he comes back, and, you know, he manages to settle in and do what he needed to do against Renato Moicano, and that was offensively wrestle. He didn't worry about the difference in wrestling and grappling. He just made sure to put Renato Moicano in a defensive position, in a defensive posture, because Moicano, when he's put in these defensive postures, it's like, you know, if he's on top, he's great. But if he's forced to kind of defend himself, not as great. We saw that against Islam when he got put on his back. Dariush just did the same thing, you know. Wrestling, it did him good. More kind of better on top. Putting him on his back, you know, Dariush doesn't have to worry about the difference in grappling, because he's an expert ADCC competitor, and he can handle the grappling department himself. What else happened here? Let's see. Peyton Talbot bounced back. That was incredible. Defeated Felipe Lima. Now, I don't take this as a knock on Felipe Lima, but I do think everybody was not giving Raoni Barcelos enough credit for defeating Peyton Talbot. It's like, oh, Talbot's not good. He has holes. You know, he's just a striker. He shouldn't be able to stand with this guy. Felipe Lima threw the kitchen sink at him. Talbot has fantastic striking. We know that. But what really showed in this fight is, you know, Felipe Lima's a great fighter, but Peyton Talbot has, like, improved leaps and bounds. It's been 5 months since he lost to Raoni Barcelos. 5 months! And now he's back, you know? So he improved a lot in this fight between these last 2 fights. Felipe Lima is a great grappler. Like, don't get it twisted. He's a really good grappler. But, like, Peyton Talbot just got better in the scrambles, and he knew how to create scrambles here. I like the post-fight call-out, though. Like, Adrian Yanez, like, that's a real fun fight. Yanez gets a little too wild and crazy. I think Peyton Talbot should be able to beat Adrian Yanez, but I do enjoy the call out. I enjoy a good style of matchmaking like that, and I think that fight has the potential to be a very fun fight. What else happened on this card? Gregory Rodriguez probably got arrested after knocking out Jack Hermansson and then throwing that massive hammer fist. Where was Herb Dean on that? Because, Rodriguez, he's kind of, I don't care what they have to say. But, come on, bro. You got to be better than that. Herb Dean was just in the worst possible spot and didn't do enough to intervene before the hammer fist came through. Hermansson, thankfully, is okay in the back. That's, awesome to hear. I don't know where he goes from here. And Gregory Rodriguez has obvious flaws. You get past that first round and you should be okay. But this was a first-round knockout. Rodriguez, left hook, just did the trick. All right, also on this card, Jose Delgado and Haider Emil, first-round knockout. Big knee, ground and pound. Tracy Cortez defeated Viviana Rujao via unanimous decision. Terrence McKinney bounced back with a first-round guillotine against Slavoj Borshev. Jacoby Smith. Oh, I enjoyed Jacoby Smith, actually. I thought Jacoby Smith looked okay in this fight. I don't say he looked great because, originally I thought, oh, man, I'm thinking in this fight, he's beating the brakes off of Nico Price. Second round rear naked choke. He's beating the daylights out of Price. Great, but then he gets up and it's like, oh, he gassed himself out. He gassed himself out by beating up Nico Price too hard. And I thought, oh, man, Nico Price can really start to run away with this. And he was beating Jacoby Smith up. Jacoby Smith is an NCAA All-American and stuff. I thought Jacoby Smith was originally when first was attacking, and it's like, man, this is a better prospect than Bo Nickel. He's really good. He's really great. He looked great against a much better opponent than anything Bo Nichols looked good against. Hands looked good. He beat up Price too hard. That's all it was. But the second round rear naked choke kind of, after seeing him gas and stuff, I was like, okay, he can dig deep if he needs to. Bo Nickel, he struggled to dig deep against Renner de Ritter. And I want to see Nickel back, but I need to see him work on what he does. Elsewhere on this card, Jonta Deniz defeated Alvin Hines, and I really don't care about that fight. So, UFC 317, huge success. We got a big new star in Ilia Topuria. It was fantastic. And, there's not a better 3 back-to-back. I heard this on Morning Combat. There's not a better back-to-back 3 wins than Volkanovski, Holloway, and up a weight. That's the qualifier. Up a weight in Charles Oliveira. So, good on him. I'm looking forward to the Paddy Pimblett fight because I think he does need an evil guy to fight, a big bad guy, a boogeyman per se. And I think that Paddy Pimblett can be that, and then we can see Arman Tsarukyan get his shot, and that would bring this fight to all new levels. Guys, this weekend I am going to Dallas again for the U.S. Karate Championships to film the last part of Fight Finders episode 7, where we follow around Olympian karateka Tom Scott as he goes on to become a U.S. national champion. Catch episode 5 right here. It's complete opposite of sport karate. This is bare knuckle MMA, a lot brutal. We follow around former UFC veteran Brandon Davis to see what it's like to fight in a bare knuckle MMA fight. One of my favorite episodes. Guys, you got to check it out.